Okay, just give me a second. My Zomato guy is outside. It will get edited. Don't worry. I'll just yeah. Give me a second. Huh?
You
I'm
can do
sorry.
anything on Zoom. You should just call him on Zomato.
Oh wow, my God!
Thank you
You've
so
got a
much.
joke for that
Thank
as well.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So now he's gone. We can just talk about this. I don't know who this guy is, honestly. He just tweeted to me, and I was like, wow, he looks sad and lonely in life. So let's help him out. I honestly don't think he has that much disposable income to order from Zomato. I think he just created an excuse to go outside. It's all a scam. He'll come back. We'll see. There won't be any parcel. It's not. He's not. It's not like he wants to be Amit S, but he's not. It's one of
Amit
those.
S is here, Saurabh. So you should be a little afraid.
Hi man, what's up?
Welcome to the second episode of this podcast, guys. The podcast which is called Random Cricket Conversations with Comedians, where we talk to some of our favorite comedians about the game that you and I absolutely love, madly, passionately love the game. And well, after the first episode, I ended the episode with Amit Tandon asking him who would he pick to go to an India-Pakistan final at Lord's. And the first name he took was Saurabh Pant. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming writer-comedian Saurabh Pant. Big thank you, Saurabh, for agreeing to do this.
थोड़ी मैंने थोड़ा एडवांस में I came on, but yeah, it was my timing was off as usual. This is why I never made it as a cricketer, even though you require timing as a comedian as well. But that's not the point. Hey, but this sounds exciting. Are you arranging tickets for Amit Tandon and me to go see India Pakistan live, or what? Are you the person who's going to make the breakthrough?
When they do, reach the final of a tournament and it is played at Lord's, maybe I can do that for you.
Okay, I need to understand your influence in the cricket circles.
There are
you
things happening in the background, and anyway, my name is Amit, so you should understand my power of influencing events.
Boss, you should literally. I think you should just rename yourself Amit S, just for reference.
That's what generally
just
happens.
Just call yourself Amit S Junior.
You have written 3 books. You have done shows, comedy shows all over the world. And we are going to talk none of that. We are going to talk only about your relationship with the game. How does that sound to you? Up for it?
Boss, I'm done. I think the only thing that makes sense to me these days is cricket. Mm-hmm. Everything else is just highly unpredictable. Even as a comedian, you're like I think pre the pandemic, you're like, yaar, 200 log ke liye show hai, that's good. 200 people you will perform for, nice. Now you're like, acha, 15 log ke liye show hai, mast hai, karte hai. With social distancing or venue of 80, whatever. So everything is unpredictable. And cricket has been, I think since the pandemic started, my relationship with cricket has grown substantially, because I think I've had time to sort of not be updated with what is happening now, but get updated with things that are happening in the past. So that's when you meet somebody like Joy Bhattacharya or whoever, and they'll say, in June 26th, 1984, in Vaka, the Ravi Shastri, he hit a spectator with a ball which was made out of a feather. And then the Benson Hedges trophy on that day at 4:26 a.m. was presented to him with 9 packs of cigarettes. I'm like, how do you remember any of this stuff, dude? I don't remember yesterday's match. If you ask me that, hey, Pakistan and England played in which city? I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. So talking to people like Joy Bhattacharya and Ayaz Memon and Harsha Bhogle and cricketers from past, present, future. Robbie Uthappa has been another great one. It's been really interesting where you've started sort of understanding the nuances of the game a lot more, and it's become it's I think becoming an even more interesting obsession.
So we have a lot to talk on the show, including your favorite cricket watching moments, but and of course, your journey with the cricketers and wake up with sort of all of that. But before we dive deep into all of that, let me begin by telling our audience something that possibly a lot of people would not know. And because the YouTube episode from where I got this information was watched by 4,000 people. So I'm hoping my episodes gets more views than this. But you used to be quite heavy and quite short when young. And yet you used to bowl fast. bowl quite a lot of Yorkers, modeling your action on Darren Guff, if I'm not wrong, right? So I would
Yes.
like to know a bit about that. The fast bowler sort of one, the fast bowler that India never had. Tell us a bit about that.
I mean, look, honestly, it's one of those things where you look back, and we used to play with the rubber ball. I think I've played with the season ball like probably 6 times in my entire life, maybe 8 times, actually probably 10 times. I did some coaching with Kavi Shastri, a gentleman called Kavi Shastri, who I think is Ravi Shastri's brother. That's what he claimed. I don't even know if that's a real thing,
Is that a
but that's
real
actually
name?
yeah. I
Wow.
think it was Kavi. I really got to Google this if Ravi Shastri has a brother who's also a cricket coach, but I did cricket coaching with him 4 times. And like the rubber ball is much easier to bowl fast in, right? Because it's the release. With the seam, you need like foop, you need wrist action.
Mhm.
With the rubber ball, it's just like patak. You just use shoulder and you use some wrist and you're good. But with the seam, like when you're bowling with the proper season ball, it actually takes work to get it there faster. I used to bowl like Darren Guff. I think there's a point where I tried to bowl like Ajit Agarkar. I tried, and then I started bowling left-handed and tried to be like Mitchell Johnson for no reason.
Oh, you could bowl with both the hands.
Yeah, I can get it across. I mean, it's not going to be good, but I can get it across. I've bowled like when I play cricket with my friends and all at nets and shit like that. Sometimes like I'm 39, dude. Like, dude, Hardik Pandya is having problems bowling fast, so you can see somebody has my fitness levels. So I'll bowl like say 3 overs with my right hand, and then I'll start playing, and then I'll bowl some really shitty left-handed stuff. And with like, oh my god, it's horrible. It barely gets across, and then people get out. I think cricket as a young person was the first time I got any kind of success in anything,
Okay.
which is kind of interesting. I think at the first time I bowled, and it happened slowly. I was probably at 12 at the time, and I was bowling to a 22-year-old, and I yorked him, and he was
What?
pissed. He
Wow.
was pissed, dude. He was very, very pissed. And I was like, shit, this is great. Then he beat me up, which is all true. Because because not only did I get him out, I also gave him some lip. Where I was like, I thought you're the best batsman out here. You suck, man.
The
He's like,
12
dude.
years sort
So
of
he beat
fun
me up.
giving a send off to 22-year-old guy. So you've always been this way.
Yeah. I've always been this way. I like so which is why I love cricket banter. I love aggression. I love fast bowlers being aggression. Again, I don't think I was anything.
Mhm.
I think I was just like some building bully kind of cricket person. But beyond that, I don't think I was. The only other time I faced success was, I think I've said this story before.
Mhm.
I played for the first time in my school with a rubber ball. I bowled 2 overs. I think I got 7 wickets
What?
because I could nail the Yorker. I could keep getting the Yorker in. Like I got seven
What age
Yorkers in
was
12
this?
balls. 14, 15 probably.
Whoa.
And it was the only ball I had. I had no other ball. I didn't know what outswing was. I didn't know what in cutters were, leg cutters, nothing. I just had the Yorker. I would literally just keep bowling the Yorker, or if that wasn't working, I'd bowl a beamer to be like, so, it's just the two options.
The intent was to, intimidate the bowler. So you definitely had that fast bowler's attitude all the time.
Yeah, and I genuinely think it comes from a place of like I'm telling you, it was a success related thing. I was not good at studies. I thought I had very bad social skills, which I think I worked on it. And then I was a bad student. I was bad at everything else. The only thing I was tolerable at that point of time was playing building cricket with a rubber ball. That is it. So I fully explored that. So I got those 7 wickets in 2 overs, and then they drafted me the next day. Like, dude, there's a house match happening. So we were in the blue house.
Okay.
And they're like, dude, you got to open the bowling, man. And I'm like, yeah, I'll show these guys. I got the moves. And then they handed me the season ball, which I had never held in my life at the age of 15. And I gave 22 runs in the first over, including 9 no balls because I wasn't being able to control the ball. And I think I did something which I think in my head, it's become a bigger thing than it was, where I bowled the ball and it slipped so far out of my hand that we were playing on a football ground. It went for 6 byes.
What?
Which I don't think anybody's ever achieved.
Yeah, no, actually, there is this guy called Charles Cartwright, and it's I guess, in the 1800s, there is this. I mean, he used to bowl so fast that his bye went for a 6, and that's possibly the only such instance that I have heard. And the second is, of course, the greatest fast bowler that India never had, Saurabh Pant.
By the way, Amit, I got to tell you this. Okay, at some stage, I'm going to record myself playing cricket, and people are going to be like, "This guy's full of shit." Okay, because like I'm 39. Okay, I can't bowl even at like a third of the pace that I used to bowl earlier. Like I'm barely getting the ball across. So they're gonna see me now and go like, "What bullshit this guy was talking." But trust me, and you can ask my friends. I could bowl fast. I didn't say I could bowl well. I just said I could bowl fast. Like even my friends who used to play with me, they're like, "Dude, you bowl very fast. You don't know how to bowl, but you bowl very fast." So
So
yeah.
basically, Sean Tate ka desi version, huh?
And height also is the same, build is the same. But Sean Tate का dude वो javelin वाला था ना मेरा. I used to go like one was Darren Gough, then the second there was somebody else I used to try and bowl
Waqar
like.
Yunus?
When I was tired, I would try and bowl like Javagal Srinath, and
That's quite a
because like
commentary on Indian pace bowlers.
no, dude, because his action is literally one of the smoothest actions you'll ever see.
Yeah, that's true.
If you ever play cricket, it's such a good action that you can like to repeat it on a regular basis is much easier. So you actually realize that my God, Srinath had such a great action. Like if an idiot like me can replicate it on this thing. So I used to do Darren Gough. I used to do, I think briefly I tried to be Waqar or whatever, but I think mainly it was Darren Gough. Yeah.
So where did that love for cricket come from? As in, of course, these were idols, but like, were there people in the family who used to watch a lot of cricket? And did you consume a lot of cricket on television when it was there?
So I once had a dream, and it was Donald Bradman, and he said, "Saurabh, you have it, mate." And I said, "Thanks." And I knew it. I could sense that. There's an old poem which is called "Abu Ben Adam May His Tribe Increase." I woke one night from a deep dream of peace and saw within the moonlight his doom, making it rich like a lily in bloom. That for me was Don Bradman. He came to me in the night as a vision, and he said, "You're the future, my son, and you will do this." And that's when it started. Or it was my dad. It was one of those two things. My dad used to watch. My dad was obsessed with sports in general. He used to play. He used to play tennis. He used to watch tennis. He used to play cricket, watch cricket. And what else did we watch? We didn't watch much football. I think mainly it was tennis and cricket. And so he got me. We were very, very fortunate and very privileged to have a tennis court near our house.
Okay.
So I used to go play tennis, and I used to play tennis roughly like how I used to play cricket, which is with absolutely no skill and just a stupid amount of enthusiasm. So I had a pretty good serve. And I remember in tennis, I played we were at this place called Priyadarshini Park. Okay. And they put me in a tournament. And I had a great serve and I had a great forehand. And I had zero backhand. Like, it's like, there's nothing. Like, it's like, I would hit the ball and become like a table tennis racket. It's just horrible. So I played this guy in the first round who was the number 1 seed, who apparently was Maharashtra number 12 or some shit, is what he claimed. I don't know if any of it was true. So it was a 1-set match and I was leading 5-2 because I had literally bang, bang, bang served and like hit the forehand. And I would make myself, how when you really have no talent for the backhand, you just go this like forehand. So I used to keep doing that. And then he finally figured out at 5-2, I think it was 40-30. Was 1 point away from defeating him, and then he's like, "This dude has no backhand," and he destroyed me. Then he won 7-5. He absolutely destroyed me. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just I'm having random. But yeah, cricket was my dad. Tennis was my dad. I think that's the 2 sports I still follow most closely even now because of my dad. I think I've seen live cricket probably. I don't think more than like 10 times. The first time my dad took me to, I think it was Brabant Stadium. India was playing England. And I think Kapil Dev was bowling, and like till that point you had this like, dude, Kapil Dev, man. And again, like I think Ayaz Memon and a bunch of other cricket journalists have repeated this, that greatest Indian cricketer,
of course,
is Kapil Dev. And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, absolutely correct, dude, because I think he said that 175 against Zimbabwe was actually the bigger turning point in the West Indies final. Because the 175 against Zimbabwe suddenly showed everybody in that side that anything is possible.
Yeah.
Right. And that, that belief, right? Like when you see a team playing and you're like, oh my God, this team can do anything, because they suddenly believe they can win out of any circumstance. And I think that was Kapil Dev. So, I didn't know all of that stuff because Ayaz Memon was not my friend when I was in school. I tried to send him a friend request on Facebook, but Mark Zuckerberg had not even invented Facebook by that time, which is very discourteous of him, because I think Ayaz and me would have been good friends to start with. Anyway, so you'd had this thing of Kapil Dev, right? Oh my God, it's Kapil Dev. And I remember sitting with my dad and watching this test match. And I think Graham Hicks scored 150 something. And I think he hit Kapil Dev for 2 sixes.
Okay.
How do you remember this?
1992 is the only time Graham Hick has played in India, and that series he ended as the highest wicket taker. He took 8 wickets and as the highest run getter. So I don't know it's 158 or not, but yeah, it was a score in excess of 150. If so, either 178 or something. But yeah, this is the trivia that he ended both as the highest wicket taker and the highest run getter in a series, which of course we remember it as the brown wash, completely killed the English cricketing hopes. So yeah.
Yeah, see, much like the other Amit S, you've said something which you believe is a fact with great conviction, and now people are just like, he said it so convincingly that this is probably the right number. And now I'm assuming whenever you read this releases on YouTube, somebody's going to say, "Dude, he got out for duck in all the matches." Like, both of you are wrong. So I saw Graham Hick hit Kapil Dev for a 6, and I think he hit him for 2 sixes. And I'm sitting in the stands, and I turned to my dad, and I'm like, "Papa, this must be the first time anybody's ever hit Kapil Dev for a 6." And my dad is like, "What a moron, man, this child is." Like, he has no idea about cricket. Like, obviously Kapil Dev has been hit for 6s before. But I remember, I think I went for 3 or 4 separate matches at Brabant and Wankhede.
Mm-hmm.
And wait, now that I remember, it's like probably 6. And each time India lost. Every single time I have gone seen. Once I remember Damien Fleming just blowing away India. Then once I think Sanath Jayasuriya went on a rampage where he broke the scoreboard.
151.
Then Graham Hick did this. Sorry?
151 he scored 1998.
I take your word for it once again. See, this time you had less confidence in yourself when you said it.
No, this is the Independence Day Cup, yeah. In the one in which Saeed Anwar made 194. And first match was India-New Zealand, May tournament hua tha. And Sachin scored a century. India had just come back from, I guess, the Coca-Cola trophy. So, yeah, so India were knocked out. Then Pakistan and Sri Lanka played the final because of Sanath Jayasuriya's knock. Yeah, and also one little trivia here. At that point, after that innings, Sanath Jayasuriya held a very unique record, especially because of this innings, that he was his country's, he held the record for his country's best bowling figures in an ODI as well as the highest score in an ODI. So, and that was later done by Paul Stirling of Ireland. So, yep, just added trivia for our listeners. You can verify it. There is more truth to it than other Amit.
Dude, but like Jayasuriya, man, I used to hate love Jayasuriya back then, and now I just love him. Like when I think back, I'm like, my God, dude, like to be be beyond the spin hitter role and then double up as a so I think I had a lot of hope for Kusal Perera, right? Because after that South Africa knock, I thought my God, this is that the South Africa knock that he had is probably one of the top 3 test match knocks in the last decade. Totally. Right? It's the Ben Stokes thing against Australia, and then it's Mayers against. No, I'm saying the last second. Mayers against Bangladesh, dude.
Yeah.
That 200 chasing 396 is ridiculous. It was a ridiculous knock on debut. That too, oh my God. So those 3 knocks really stand. All left-handers. Interesting. So yeah, I and then you realize later that Jayasuriya. So anyway, we saw every time I went to Wankhede or Brabant to see a match, India would lose, and I remember where I think I saw India had Sri Lanka 7 wickets down before the last session in a test.
Mm-hmm.
And they needed 3 wickets to win, obviously. And somebody dropped a catch at silly mid-off or point or something like that. And I have never felt more furious in my life. It was so irritating, dude. I still remember that and I get pissed. I don't know who the fielder was, but I'm like, dude, I could have caught that ball. It was such an easy catch. And they dropped it, and then India lost. And then match got drawn. I was irritated about it. So every time I've seen a cricket match, India have lost, except the IPL where India always wins. I always enjoy Prithvi Shaw because, again, what a great story. You know what? That's what's so interesting about current cricket is that you can literally change your opinion about a cricketer after watching one video of them not playing cricket. Which is crazy.
Which video did you watch of him not playing cricket?
Dude, Prithvi Shaw's interview with his dad, man. And by the way, I've always really liked... Shreyas Iyer was the one who my opinion of him changed after. I was like, oh, nice guy. And, okay, the thing is that I think I met Shreyas Iyer at some fashion and do or something like that. And I'm like, hey, big fan, man. I was like, yeah, he's just like really cool about it. And then later on, you realize that obviously, dude, it's Shreyas Iyer. He has like 85 people coming up to him every hour telling him, like, hey, big fan. He's like, just get away from me, man. So I get it. But then you start finding out about his teammates saying, dude, he's fun. He does pranks. He's like, and not true. Like Ajay Devgan kind of pranks where you make a cake out of arsenic and feed it to your castmate and say, that was hilarious.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, like he's had one where he called I think it was a great prank they played on some assistant where they made him wake up at 6 a.m. for a call time, which was not at 6 a.m. And I'm like, wow, what a great prank, man. So proud of you. I think with Anil Kumble, the thing was that I expected him to be like shorter. That was my big complaint.
When you were talking about Kumble, that was what I had in mind, that it just, his build is so intimidating, and then he has that voice.
Yeah.
So it becomes very difficult to, and I don't know, did you try to make him laugh or something? That I'm pretty sure did not go down.
Oh my God, I tanked, dude. It was like an absolute disaster. Like a lot of these cricket events are genuinely fascinating. I've done a lot of them. It's like genuinely interesting to try and make, because also the problem that the cricketers have is that that there's just media people waiting for their response, right? So if you make a joke, say on Kumar Sangakkara, and like Kumble giggles. I mean, I doubt Anil Kumble has ever giggled in his life. I think it's usually 6'12". But like, yeah. So, but I mean, he's a big dude. Anil Kumble is 6'4" and he's broad. And he's got that voice and he's got all of it. And I think it was my fault. It wasn't his. I have had fun experiences with cricket. My favorite interactions is Ramiz Raja at C8 Cricket Awards. I met him backstage. I had a French beard. I had my bald head and everything. And I had 2 earrings, etc., etc. And Ramiz Raja came up to me and he's like, "Hey, how are you, man?" I'm like, "Great, man. Thank you, Mr. Raja. So nice of you." And he's like, "So what are you doing after retirement, yeah?" Like, what? Yeah, so I think earlier I thought that he thought I was Vinod Kambli, but now I think he thinks I was Murli Karthik. I think that's who he thought I was. I think it was more likely that he thought I was Murli Karthik.
Yeah, probably with the earrings.
Because
but Vinod Kambli also wore earrings.
Yeah, but like Vinod Kambli and me actually don't look as similar as people say we do. I've met him a couple of times. Very sweet guy. Like, oh my, like again, still, I will repeat this till my dying day. One of my favorite cricketers of all time. The impact that he had on me as like you're talking about growing up cricket. Those 200s, those 2 double hundreds that he scored. I remember seeing those knocks and going like, who is this guy? Who is this dude, man? And I think again. Easily the worst handled cricketer by Indian cricket, arguably ever. Mm-hmm. They completely mishandled him entirely, and that I will always say that. But yeah, I mean, by the way, your question was about interactions with cricketers, dude. I remember dude, there's nothing more exciting than to watch a match live in a stadium. Mm-hmm. Right, because I still remember Damien Fleming bowling to India. I think he took 5 for 42 or something in that match.
You talking about 96 World Cup, yeah?
Was it the 96 World Cup?
He took a 5-for in the 96 World Cup, as far as I remember. The one in which Sachin scored 90.
Which is what's so weird. I can't remember anything else.
Because I don't think Damien Fleming played like, when say India versus Australia 2001 series, none of those fixtures were in Mumbai because we had the first test.
You know what, we can just Google this.
Yeah, totally. I think it has to be the only time Damien Fleming has taken a 5-wicket haul in India, it should be that, or maybe in the 98 tri series with Zimbabwe and Australia.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it might be one of those. I mean, this is going to take a lot of Googling. Yeah, this is so, but I remember him. I still remember my point of view was like the pitch is here and I'm roughly here. And I remember this guy coming into bowl, and this is like after McGrath and like whoever else in the Australian team bowling. And I remember they also had one of those, I think they had Ian Harvey. It was Ian Harvey there? I don't remember. But I remember Fleming coming in and just being so irritating.
Irritating in what sense?
He just kept Dude, he like again. Damon Fleming is the perfect example of me not understanding cricket as a young person.
Mm-hmm.
When now that I think about it, I'm like, what a spectacularly good bowler he was.
True.
Like he was such a good bowler because he just kept at it. He just kept at it. He just kept at it, and he used to really take wickets. I think I don't know if there's any record about. I mean, obviously there's a record about Fleming and McGrath versus India.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that it might be Fleming inching forward in ODIs. I don't think in Test matches that much, but I remember him like it's the floodlights of Wankhede or Brabon, whichever one it was. And I remember this guy just steaming in with that weird action that he had, like whatever that thing he used to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he just kept at it. And he just kept at it. I'm like, this guy, man, can somebody just take him out of this ground? He's just ruining this match for India. And I remember feeling so irritated at him. So, like, and I still remember that image of him running into bowl. It was great, man. So, so that oddly enough is one of those bizarre cricket memories I have. Is just Damon Fleming bowling and decimating India in that match, whichever match it was.
Fantastic. And I checked. I could not resist from checking. Yeah, it is the 96 World Cup match. Sachin scored 90. You saw Sachin score 90 in Wankhede. My God, you lucky, I would say. Yeah? So any special memories of Sachin from the 90s?
Dude, I think the first time when he scored 81 or 49 or whatever against New Zealand.
New Zealand. Mm-hmm.
Like that was such a landmark innings, and I remember I think I'd woken up early to watch it or whatever it was. Maybe it was the second innings or something. I've forgotten the circumstances.
Yeah.
Was it the
India
second
was
innings?
chasing a very small total, 140 something.
Yeah. So, and I remember seeing that, and I'm like, oh my God, what did he just do? This is amazing. Like he was literally decimating them. So that is like that and Desert Storm are like. I don't think the love that you feel for a cricketer actually VVS Lakshman 281 with Dravid.
Uh-huh.
That's and then of course Rishabh Pant right now.
Hey, stories. I want the stories.
Yeah, no. I'm trying to figure out in my own head which cricketer I remember feeling incredible love towards as a cricket fan, and I think it was. It was Desert Storm. But that 81 or 49 versus New Zealand, I remember, was so incredible because India have, like every other country, have always struggled in New Zealand. And as an audience member, it's at the match starts at like 4 a.m. or some. It's impossible to watch.
Yeah, there's very little motivation.
Yeah. I mean, and by the way, I love watching. I hope it never changes. I hope it never changes. Anybody who says that the host team should make friendlier tracks, fuck you. Just no. I want New Zealand to have those kind of tracks. I want England to have those kind of tracks. I want India to have a turning track, like or whatever suits our bowlers. That's what makes it interesting. So, but that 81 versus 49, you could almost sense that there was a shift in his approach to how he saw himself. Because he'd always been there and thereabouts, and you'd always seen him. But that knock, I think, was when he like I think for VVS Lakshman, oddly enough, the knock that sort of cemented himself in self-confidence was not the 281, it was the 167 against Australia in that final test in Australia.
Yep.
Like, because that's when he suddenly came out, he's like, yeah, I can do this. And Australia was like, he can do this. And you could sense that it stayed at the back of their head that this is the case. So yeah, that 81 was 49 of Sachin was probably, and then Desert Storm, man, my God. Just like a one-man army, I don't think I've ever seen a match where it's 11 versus 1 that, like, and I'm sure other people did well. I'm sure somebody scored a 50, somebody took a 4-wicket or something like that must have happened. But I mean, he just did it by himself against easily the best team of that 2 decades. It was incredible. It's like that's a incredible cricket memory.
Yeah, seriously. And yeah, I think, when you talk of that knock in 82 or 49, so the story is that he had not.
So you had to correct me. You couldn't resist. You just could not resist. You're like, not 81, it's 82. You just had to. Just
look, there is one Amit who's stating facts. Come on. So yeah, I mean, I always think of it that India wasted 5 years of Sachin, the ODI batsman, by not giving him the opening slot, and he got that one opportunity. That was the first time he opened, and look how he grabbed the opportunity with both hands. मतलब कितना determination रहा होगा, कितना desperation raha hoga to get that opening slot, that he played a knock like that in 1994, which is like what, 27 years ago. So yeah, I just think yeah, if Sachin had been given the opening slot, in the 5 years, in the first 5 years of his career, think what his numbers could have been, because he was batting at number 5 and 6 usse pehle. So clearly wasted our precious openers, and we were opening with Ajay Jadeja, Manoj Prabhakar at that point.
Dude, oh my God! Like I'll tell you another cricket memory that still pisses me off to this day.
Okay.
It's like it like, so 1996, the World Cup semi-final against Sri Lanka. I think honestly, like emotions aside, Sri Lanka completely outplayed us. There's no other way to look at it. But the match that I still, I don't know, you definitely know this more than me. India is playing against West Indies.
Mm-hmm.
Manoj Prabhakar is batting on some 85 or something like that. Nayan Mongia comes out to bat. India need to score 6 runs and over. And they start leaving balls. And India lost that match. I have literally never felt more furious watching a match in my life.
So you watched that match on television live?
I did. I wanted to break my TV. It made me so goddamn angry to watch that match live. I was like, what the hell are you doing, dude? Like it was so, and I don't know if that match has ever been investigated or what the end circumstances of it were, but I have never felt more pissed off in my life watching a match. Like, and from that point on, I lost. And again, it's not like this is persisting. It's not like I have lost all respect for these two cricketers and it's going to persist forever. Like, because I firmly believe that people make mistakes and it's been years, right? And I would love to talk to Manoj Prabhakar. I would love to talk to Nayan Mongia. But dude, I was furious watching that. Like, I think about it right now and I'm like, I can't believe they left the ball outside off stump requiring 6 runs and over.
Yeah.
And it was like, I was like, what are you doing? Like, what is the intent here? It's an ODI match. You're not playing for a draw in an ODI. Has something happened? Has a wiring default happened that somebody is like, or maybe they were trying to show Dhoni how it's done. They're like, listen, we'll take 26 per over of the last 2 overs and wait till right the end or something like that. What was it? I still can't understand what they were trying to do. There is no explanation that I have found aside from the obvious lingering which I think
when it is 90s, you always have that as a part of the story.
Yeah.
So, but you talked about this in this particular partnership, and then you also mentioned MS Dhoni, which brings me to the India versus England World Cup match in 2019, where Dhoni and Kedar Jadhav just didn't seem to go for it. Do you think, like, do you remember that match? Do you know anything about that? I mean,
so in that particular match, we were chasing a big score, but I think it was out of I mean that irritated me a little bit, but I think they were trying.
Mm-hmm.
They were trying. They just weren't being able to get it done. Okay. They were still trying. Like, as opposed to you just like,
yeah, that was like
leaving a ball outside off stump repeatedly. Yeah,
that was like, you remember Chamatkar, the Nasruddin Shah movie.
Yeah,
something like that happening. It is so blatantly happening. Okay, this brings me to another question. You clearly followed your cricket, very passionately in 90s. Then 2000s was, of course, a reason. There was a strong reason to follow because what all was happening, Sourav Ganguly, MS Dhoni, all of that. And now there is a complete change in the sense that under Virat Kohli and Dhoni, we have begun to win so much. So 3 decades of following cricket. Of course, the game has changed. So have you. So how do you look back at those experiences? As in, would you say that you follow the team or you follow the game as passionately as you did back in the 90s when सिर्फ TV होता था, we could watch cricket on. ऐसा नहीं है कि हम बाहर है तो we can watch it on, say, Hotstar or Sony Live. So has the passion waned somewhat, or has it just transformed into different?
The passion is very much there, dude. I get very excited watching, and I watch cricket. I love the Indian cricket team, but I watch cricket.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Keshav Maharaj getting a hat trick right now, which is still one of the funniest things I've seen, because he looked so shocked that he got it. And again, a very hardworking cricketer. Like, I've started having way more empathy and understanding of these cricketers than I did as when I was younger. I don't think I had any of that. I think it's like, you're just impassioned without having any intelligence about what they're going through. And I do think it has something to do with the fact that I'm a public figure, right? And I mean, after Virat Kohli is me in India in popularity.
Absolutely.
But being a public figure and getting sort of abused and hate for random things which you didn't even want to intend and all of that stuff, especially as a comedian. And some of the shit that you said in the past, you're like, I regret it. That's why it doesn't exist, because I fucking hated what I said. But so that kind of understanding to try and get where a lot of these guys are coming from is so interesting. I've gotten into the women's game, which I was very pleasantly surprised. I found incredible interesting because it's almost like it seemed initially like a different genre of cricket.
Yeah.
Because the pace, the angles were so different. Like the first time I saw Poonam Yadav bowling in that World Cup it was, right? When India reached the final right now.
World T20.
I remember the trajectory of the ball. Like it was a real loop. Right? Like even Chahal and like Tahir. I'm trying to think who the other
Chawla
male cricketers out
of it a loop. I mean, leg spinner.
Chawla. I don't think even they gave it. Yeah, this is like it was a big loop, and then it was great. I really liked it. So I have way more passion. I also have a lot more understanding for what a lot of them are going through. I will make fun of the cricketers and I will make fun of events, but I'm probably not as critical as a lot of other people will be, because I know where they're coming from. I know what they're going through. I know the circumstances that they've had. And again, this is a cricket podcast, so I must mention that I've read Akash Chopra's books. And it's actually quite interesting about the journey. I was reading Alan Wilkins' book as well, which is also quite interesting. I mean, the more you try and find out about them, you start realizing that they're human beings. Just calm down. You don't have to break your TV and throw stones at their house, which still happens.
I just thought, I think we should attempt at making a bald 11. Do you think you can pick out some names from cricket for a bald 11? I just had this thought right now. And I think, this is something that you and I should do.
So see, Amit, if we do make a bald 11, we won't be in it.
Of course
there's enough cricketers out there. Currently, who's there? I mean, what's his face? Ben Dunk, I think, just shows up because Jared Kimber has spoken so extensively about him. The Indian cricket team doesn't have anyone.
Oh, it has Hardik Pandya right now, who has gone for that bald look. And Shikhar Dhawan, yeah.
They're not bald. They're just pretenders, man.
Not
in anything else, but like
bald, and then they did something. At least Shikhar Dhawan did, okay.
Yeah, they've got hair. I'm saying you have to be bald. Like you have to be Herschel Gibbs / Ben Dunk / what's his face, man? Huh?
And yeah, you've taken two names now: Ben Dunk, Herschel Gibbs. So I'm just counting, making an 11 here.
Darren, there would be Tino Best.
Darren Lehman.
There's
most experienced.
No, please not random. Yeah, I would say Hashim Amla.
Yeah, man, Hashim
Amla is one.
What about that?
I think Andrew Simons towards the end was genuinely bald. I think Matthew Hayden, but it has to be bald during your playing days. It can't be like
it can't be Vinod Kamli. Vinod Kamli was never bald in his playing days, if I remember. Was he?
Yeah, he wasn't. He had those beautiful pineapple things and great style. It's awesome.
Virender Sehwag went full bald during his playing days before he came back with hair, which is something that happens to some people, not everyone.
Yeah. So Sehwag we can throw in. I mean, Sehwag is allowed. Tino Best, did I say?
Oh, no, you didn't say.
Matt Pryor.
Yeah.
Tino Best.
7 people. Tino Best, I think you should do a podcast with him, because I think that's one person who would match your level of energy. And I think he's that kind
Tino
of
Best is extraordinary.
Yeah, the bowler that you would have been had you bowled with a season ball. I think I can totally understand Saurabh Pant growing up to be a Tino Best. Bowling karega ekdam full, dil se, but he will also sledge dil se.
हाँ, पर वो तो Adonis है यार. वो तो he's I mean, even for his I think he's about my age now. He's still bowling fast.
Yeah, we watched the World Safety Series, Road Safety Series, and my God, he was not giving an inch here.
By the way, we need some bowlers, so Nathan Lyon has to be there. How can we forget Nathan Lyon? Jack Leach and what's his face here? Who's the Australian dude?
Ashton Agar.
Ashton Agar is another one, by the way. And then there's the batsman. What's his face? He's a good batsman. Right now only he quit the some BBL team as a captain, whatever his name is. Completely blank.
Chris Lynn. Linsanity.
Chris Lynn. Yeah, Linsanity. Was that a thing? Yeah.
Names, yeah.
Yeah, we got 11. We got Tino Best opening the bowling, and the bowlers are Nathan Lyon, Ashton Agar, and Jack Leach. So somebody will have to double up as.
I think Doug Bollinger. Doug Bollinger Doug Bollinger. We saw him with the hair, but he was bald. So Doug Bollinger would be a good addition to this list.
Who told the story about how they pulled out his hair once?
Yeah, someone did, and there is this wonderful video. It used to exist on YouTube earlier. Ab pata nahi hai ya nahi. But what they check for hotspot, right? So there is this angle when Doug Bollinger is bowling and they're checking for the hotspot. And right above his head, you can see that he's bald, though the hair is knuckly. So it's a very funny video to watch. I don't know if it is there on YouTube now.
I mean, but I didn't know that real hair has more heat than fake hair. That's an incredible. Maybe that's what the sun is. Maybe the sun is real hair. It's not a gas giant. It's just a really hairy star.
We'll never be able to understand that. But we've got a wicketkeeper in Matt Pryor, and we've got some excellent batsmen in Hashim Amla, Herschel Gibbs, Chris Lynn, Ben Dunk. And Virendra Sehwag. Yeah, I think we've done it.
Virendra Sehwag is in. Yeah, done. We got it. We got the bald 11.
Yes, we've made it.
We nailed it. And I'm the coach. And you can be the team owner who pays everyone.
Yeah.
Starting with the coach. You can send me a check.
Yeah,
we're done.
Perfect. I would do that. I would because of course I am Amit S, and of course I have access to a lot of money, so I can easily I can easily own teams. I can easily own boards. I can easily own international organizations. So completely possible. But jokes aside, sort of last question of the show. And since I asked this to Amit as well, and I'm going to ask this to all the comedians. So this is the scenario. It's a India versus Pakistan final to happen at Lords, and you get a chance to take one person from the comedy circle. So basically tell me, who is that one absolutely cricket kida that you would love to take?
You know what? So I would, by the way, love to go see a match with Amit Tandon, because it'll be so extraordinary to watch a match with like Tandon. Like, it depends on the kind of mood I want. Like, if I want to get really worked up about nothing, I would call Abhijit Ganguly. Angad would obviously be great. Angad is interesting. Angad and we are old friends, and we drink roughly the same, so that's always exciting. We'll have to do that bender before entering the match, because I doubt they'll allow any alcohol into an India-Pakistan match, because things would go out of hand very quickly. But I think to keep the cycle going, because I think it'll be nice for you to continue this, so I don't want to name Tandon because you just did. I think Varun Thakur would be an interesting one. I think Varun Thakur, because that should be your next guest. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I should actually call him. I think Saurabh, you should forward me his number then.
Done.
That's how exactly I'm going to plan this show. Every time someone gives me a name, मैं show खत्म होने के बाद, hey, give me his number. No, I have to call him for the next episode.
Though technically I should probably have a Pakistani comedian. So there's a guy called Saad Harun who I was friends with for a while, and I'm not in touch with him for a while. So I think that also might be a fun one. So sorry, Thakur, I'm doing this for love between the people. No, Thakur it is. We'll stick to Thakur. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's great. That is it. Then that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so much, Saurabh. I really didn't.
Sorry, my kids are screaming their heads off outside. I gotta go take them down.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot for having me, man. Amit, really appreciate it.
Thank you so
and
much.
Best of luck with the show, and keep watching Cricket Premies and Wake Up with Saurabh and all that.
Absolutely, Wake Up with Saurabh.
Be nice to each other, everybody.
Watch Wake Up with Saurabh. Bye, Saurabh. Have a good day.